thought we were sitting together.
I told you, because I always, the way I'm built, I look very top heavy, sitting down, and it's like, no, I don't like to sit down. So anyway,
Okay.
this is Sandra Alexis Heath from Heath Gallery, and also from Show Your Art, Sell Your Art. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the co-founder and director of Heath Gallery, which is a boutique art gallery that's located in the heart of Harlem, in Central Harlem. And I am thrilled to be here today in conversation with Demarcus Mcgaughey. And I'm actually talking to him while he is here on Governor's Island, completing, I think, like his zillionth residency. And I just wanted to come and chat with him about his career. Demarcus, to me, is an artist who's a wonderful example of, combining art with business or understanding the business of art. And so I wanted to just have a chat with him today. And so number one, Demarcus, how are you?
I'm great. Let me not say great. I feel blessed and it feels good. Like it feels really, really good.
Yeah. So here's a question. And you don't have to, go back to when you were born, but, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you have gotten to this point.
Okay. I've always been an artist, I think my entire life. I was always like that kid who was like one of the best illustrators in his class, and but not thinking that I could do anything with that talent, not thinking that I could make a career out of it. But I knew I wanted to do something that I was good at. So I went into the art field of like graphic design. And I guess I would say everything really picked up my freshman year of college. And I remember I was going to be a psychiatrist. And I remember applying for school and standing in line to register. And something deep down inside, there was always something that I always heard about, like do something that you enjoy and then it won't feel like work. And I remember my dad was just so proud that I was going to be a doctor, a psychiatrist, and he jumped out of line to go use the restroom. And I remember telling my mom, I don't want to do this. She's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to do graphic design. I saw this movie Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be in advertising. And she's like, your dad's going to be upset. And I was just like, my teacher told me to do something that I enjoy doing, something that I'm good at. I'm good at art. And we jumped out of line. And I registered to be in the art department. And kind of the rest is history. And I ended up getting an internship as a graphic designer. And I totally went into the graphic design field, and all of my friends stayed into the fine arts field. We were taught from a fine arts background, but I always felt like graphic design was calling my name. The odds were always against me, but I was like, I don't care what anyone's gonna say. Like, I'm gonna make plan A work, and I'm gonna be a graphic designer, and I'm gonna work at an ad agency. And I did. I accomplished that, and I ended up getting other jobs like ad agencies and graphic design, and even started my own design firm and started my own publication in Texas. But I think the defining moment, there was like two defining moments. My best friend, Tafiq Muhammad, he was kind of like my accountability partner in college. And he was an amazing artist, and he ended up, we were born like the same day, but different months. So he was born March 29th, 1975, and I was born April 29th, 1975. And people always thought we were twins in college, because we kind of favored too. Tafiq ended up passing away, and it kind of like sent me through this kind of like a depression, and like this journey of like life and like what is it all about. And I ended up taking this transformational workshop, and I remember sitting in this room full of people, and I'm like, who are these people? And like they don't look like me, they don't dress like me. I was very judgy, and I remember sitting next to you, Sandra Heath. and then hearing later that you owned a gallery, of Heath Gallery in Harlem. And I remember you going through that workshop, and I remember after the end of it, you challenging me, saying, "Hey, Demarcus, I would like for you to participate in my event hang night." And I was busy at the time, and I was like, "Oh, I'll do it next month," And you were like, you like challenged me again, and you were like, "You're not moving with urgency." And I was like, "Hey," I said, like, for me staying within integrity, I was like, if you do it next month, not only will I do one piece, I'll create 2 pieces. And that's really what started me on this journey, like 5 years ago. Now that I think about it, like 5 years ago, had you not called that out of me, I probably wouldn't be here. So I thank you for that. I believe there's a way of calling people out or calling people forward, and I feel like you called me forward.
So Demarcus, thank you for that. But what was it about being challenged to show your work and actually showing up and showing your work that caused you to keep going? Because sometimes people may have a challenge and they'll show up for the challenge, and that's something that that they'll check off that they've done, like any number of challenges, and they kind of put that experience like back in the box. But what about the experience of showing your work for the first time after not having shown it for a long time caused you to keep going?
I think that originally you hit it. I think originally I thought like, oh, I crossed this off. Like, I can now say that I exhibited my work in a New York gallery when I never shown my work in Texas. I think maybe it kind of spoke to my inner child a little bit. Like, it was kind of like, here it is, I created something and people liked it, and it was, I think again, it was something that called me forward. Like, oh wow, like I'm like, hey, they like me, or they like my work, or am I good at it? I didn't have the confidence to think that it was something I could do. And then also even, I think I shied away from it because of like growing up, the mindset was like, there's no sustainability in this. Like, the words that I always heard was, you don't want to be a starving artist, And so it's interesting because now I don't think of starving artists, I think of like emerging artists, And I think where I grew up and where I was raised, you always heard that like, there wasn't any respect on being an artist. Like, being an artist wasn't cool. It was, hey, can you draw a picture? Can you draw a picture of my girlfriend? But it was like, no one wanted to pay me. It was just like, and I remember a friend telling me, or a mentor telling me, like, you don't want to pimp your talent. And so I was like, I'm not gonna pimp my talent. Like, I knew I could make money on graphics, or not necessarily make money, but I could have a life, I could sustain a life of thriving doing my graphics. But I think what really kind of got me was when I saw that I could, when I really saw and I really believed that I could create things in the world, and that I enjoy doing it, and that I could create a life of living with doing this as well too.
Demarcus, was that a particular moment, or was that having a quiet moment and looking back at your experience? But what was the moment, or what was the experience of knowing that you could really make a living as a fine artist?
I think there was a bunch of moments that led up to it. I don't think there was one particular moment. I think there was a bunch of moments, and I think it was a process of me saying yes to opportunities. Because a lot of times I would be in my head and think like, no, I'm not going to do that, or that doesn't benefit me, or that's beneath me, or I'm not good enough for that. I think there was a couple of little things, but I guess maybe if I had to say, like, the one opportunity that like kind of changed everything was my first residency going to Spain. And it was kind of similar of my scenario with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was my ego or whatever, being challenged, but a friend of mine, Elizabeth Rossi, she's an artist as well too from the Bronx. Elizabeth got accepted into this residency in Spain, and I thought, oh man, that is so cool. Like she gets this opportunity to go to Spain for 3 months and to live and to paint and to create in the studio and in this house, in this vineyard. And when she came to me, she was so excited about this opportunity. And I remember in my Brooklyn apartment, like laying in the bed, you know, scrolling through Instagram and Facebook. And she was like, hey, I'm going to Spain. I was like, man, that is so cool. I was like, I would love to do something like that. And she said, you know what? I'm actually glad you said that because I spoke to them about you and they want to see your portfolio. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. Like I have a job and I have clients and I have this. I just can't have a, you know, rent and, you know, I can't do that. My family's in Texas, you know, I can't do that. And she said, oh, so you're still playing small. And it reminded me of when you challenged me to do hang night. And I was like, what? Like playing small? Like, no, I'm not playing small. Like I play a big game in life, you know? And so I told her like, yeah, I'll submit. A week went by and she said, did you submit? And I was like, no. And she was like, what are you afraid of? And so just like kind of on a dare, I just took the risk and I submitted and I got accepted. And that was like, I think the opportunity that was like, oh, this could be huge, this could be big. And I think what was even bigger was being in Spain and being on that vineyard and, you know, listening to the music and painting in that house. The day of the exhibition, seeing all the friends that I knew that flew from New York to support us and to take part in our exhibition. And seeing all the people, the connections that I created while I was in Spain. Like I didn't even know these people and I was able to speak to them in Spanish and they were like my waiters and they were my taxi drivers. And they were like, I took trips and stayed in Airbnbs, the owners of the Airbnbs. Just me connecting and just talking to them and inviting them to my exhibition and seeing them all come over. You know, they didn't know me, you know, but they came to my exhibition for support. So seeing that made me believe that I could do this, you know, and then coming back to the States, well, being over there, I got to travel. So that's another thing. I'm this kid from Texas, but I got to travel all these different countries. And I remember telling people like I was a graphic designer. People like, oh, that's cool. But then I remember like my friends saying, no, he's an artist. And I remember the people looking at people's faces was like, artist, like you're an artist? Are you famous? Have I ever seen your work before? And I was like, wow, like being an artist over here, like it means something. And I never experienced that in the States before. So I think maybe that's the moment where I felt like wow, like being an artist is something different than what I thought it was.
You know, what was it like going home? You know, you just had not your first solo exhibition, but you had a solo exhibition in your hometown. Tell me what that was like, what that experience was like.
That was like a whirlwind of emotions because, you know, these were like my people. You know, these were, you know, I left Texas like 13, 14 years ago to New York, and I was saying, I created my life. Like I came in and created like this, you know, another version of myself, you know. And then going home, like these are like my family, these are my friends. Like they know me from my faults, they know me from like my mess ups when I was a kid, they know me from just embarrassing moments. Like these are, for me, these are like my biggest critics, you know. And it was exciting. It was good to be home for 2 months and to be in Texas. Like I've been gone from home for like 14, 15 years, and this is the longest I've ever been home since I left. And so it's good to like see my family every day, spend time with my niece and my mom, my dad, and my sister, and creating new work. Like I went there in the pandemic. Like I was gonna take my work and I was gonna ship it off to Texas, and COVID hit, the pandemic hit. So it was like, speaking to Sonny House, which is the gallery where I exhibited at, Sonny House was like, I said, I'm gonna come on and I'm gonna create new work. And it was like, whatever I created was what we were gonna exhibit. And I came home and in 30 days, I created 8 pieces. Yeah. And it was like, I don't know, it was amazing. It was amazing because I was able to share my gift and share all my talent and my experiences of travel, because I put my travel and stuff in my work, to share that with people that I grew up with and people who've known me since I was like a child. And for some friends, it was their first time ever going to an art exhibition. And then for some that have been to an art exhibition, it was the first time they've ever seen like pop art. So like talking to them about pop art, talking to them about art, like it's a pandemic and like people are like getting dressed up to come to my show. It was just an awesome feeling. And then the fact that I had 8 pieces and so far, pretty much all the pieces sold except for 3 that I know of. Like I don't know what it's gonna be like by the end of the day, but it ends today. Today's the last day. But it's just an awesome feeling like to just share it with my friends and with my family.
How would you describe your art and your art style, and how did you discover your style?
I feel like I'm still discovering my style. I feel like I have a friend who's an artist, Avita Tizano, and we had this conversation where she's like, Demarcus, you have to choose. And I feel like I can't choose yet, because I'm still learning and I'm still trying to find my voice. But the one thing that I do know is I even as a kid, like in high school, like sitting in classes, I used to just sketch people. Like I always noticed people's features and I'm like, oh, wow, they're interesting, they're beautiful, they're handsome, they dress nice, they have this presence when they walk into a room. Like I've always been able to see that, and I think even as being an art director, I was always able to direct people towards a vision and towards a goal. So I love to paint people, I love to hear people's stories and their experiences, and I love to paint that and to tell those stories like through my paintings. But I also love pop art, so I also love like Andy Warhol, because the thing that comes from like my graphic design and advertising background. So I love graffiti and I love fonts and I love colors. So I like mixed media because I love to like do acrylics, but then I also love to use paper and spray paints and markers and pastel sticks. So I'm still like kind of figuring it out, but for the most part, I know I love to paint people. I know I love to do pop culture. So right now, I guess some people call my work handsome art, and I think handsome is their way of saying like it's mature. But I would like to call it like vibrant, because I just love colors and I love textures and all of that stuff.
How would you describe, you mentioned earlier emerging art. How would you describe yourself as an artist? Where are you? Where do you think you are in your art career at this point? And what would be, you talked about being challenged to do new things. What would be the next big challenge for you to take you to the next level?
Okay. I still consider myself an emerging artist.
And what does that actually mean?
Like
to
I'm
you?
still growing. Still, like there are artists that I look at and I feel like they've found their niche. They found their look, and they found their look. Like you can walk into a room and you can tell like, oh, Amy Sherrill did that, or you can walk and say, oh, King Saladin did that, oh, Basquiat did that, oh, that's an Andy Warhol, oh, that's a Charlie Palmer. I don't feel like you can do that with my works yet. I think you can walk into a room and be like, oh, that's cool. Oh, wow, I like those colors. Oh, wow, I really like the eyes on that person. Oh, I like the gold leaf. I think maybe like my techniques, but not that you would actually know that it's mine. And I think that's what I mean about like trying to find my voice, trying to find my look or my style. Like I do want one day that people could walk into a place and they can say, oh wow, that's a Demarcus Mcgaughey. You know, to hear that like, that's a Demarcus Mcgaughey, or I own a Demarcus Mcgaughey painting, an original Demarcus Mcgaughey painting, you know, or I own a Create Your Life painting by Demarcus Mcgaughey. So I think it's that. Yeah. Did I miss the question?
Your next biggest challenge.
Oh, my next biggest challenge. I just got over the hurdle of painting larger. So I used to only paint 30 by 40s, and now I'm painting like 36 by 48 and 48 by 60s.
Okay.
So I would say my next biggest challenge is to do narrative paintings.
What do you mean by that?
So like story, like telling a story, like painting the scene, you know, the people, still portraitures, but painting and telling the story of the narrative of where the person is, like what moment in time it was, what the person was doing. So I remember having a conversation with a friend, and a friend telling me, like I think, okay, let me back up. So for me, sometimes in Harlem, it's like, not Harlem, but just New York, friends that I know that painting, I'm like, oh man, it's so cool, you're telling these stories in these paintings, and I feel like I don't have any stories to tell. Like people are painting old family portraits, and like, oh my, I don't have pictures like that, you know? Or people find these narratives to paint, and I just think it's just exciting to me. And I remember a friend telling me, there's a story there, you're just not paying attention to it. And I was like, you know, I have fraternity, I have like high school, you know, I have my travels, like there's nothing exciting there, you know? And they were like, Demarcus, pay attention. And I think one of the best things going home was my dad wanted to make sure we always created memories. So my parents had like just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of photo albums. So I went all the way back until like when my parents was in college and when I was born, and I was just flipping through, you know, family trips and stuff like that. And like I saw my parents, like they were people before they were married, you know, before they were my parents. You know, they were in college, and my mom, you know, had this nice dress on with these nice earrings, and her hair was slicked back. My dad had this big fro, and it looked like a moment where they were just carefree, and they were like a young couple. They were in college, and they got their first car, and they got their first apartment, and then they had their first child. And they were like, there were some photos of them like hanging out with friends and family. Like they were at a club, they were at a barbecue, you know, and I just thought like, wow, those look interesting. So my next big thing is I'm going to paint old photos to tell the narratives. And then there's a couple of photos that I saw, images that I saw of my dad and myself when I was younger. And I guess being a little vulnerable. Growing up, there was some times where I was upset with my dad growing up, and I just didn't think that he gave me the love that I desired from him. Or there were times where I just felt like he didn't even like love me. But looking at these images, like he was there every step of the way, and I just didn't pay attention. Like there was times where he was getting pictures of you giving me a bath. There when I got my first dog, he was teaching me how to ride a bike, you know. And I guess what I told myself, or the story that I created, was he's never there. You know, he was never at my games, and he didn't show up for like my, you know, plays, and he didn't show up for like my parent-teacher conferences, you know. But in actuality, he was always there, you know. And now, even like now, my dad and I have like a very, very good relationship. My dad's one of my closest friends. He's one of the first individuals to ever believe in me, even before my mom did, when I quit my job and started my business, become an entrepreneur. He was like, this boy's gonna be something one day. And I had never heard that. So yeah, I wanna paint those photos, like my dad and me. I'm really excited about it because just, you know, I don't know if you ever heard like a green machine, like bicycle, tricycle, whatever, like a big wheel. And there's a picture of me, I had a big wheel and I had a green machine. So him like behind me showing me how to ride the big wheel. Like, and I think that speaks to parenthood. I think that speaks to maybe young men who didn't have their fathers, and maybe those who did have their fathers. You know, it just speaks to like parenthood.
I've seen some of the photos that you have posted on Instagram of you and your dad, and I love them. You know, I'm always really happy, you know, when I see those photos. You know, when we think about your journey in the last 5 years, I know that you've had you've been in a number of group exhibitions. You've been in a number of fairs. You have, you're now on your third or fourth residency. You've put on your own exhibition. You've had your solo exhibition in your hometown. You have been in a number of group exhibitions. So talk to me about the business of art, because I know that there are artists who've been in the game longer than you have and have not achieved even half of what you've already achieved. So talk to me about the business of art.
I always tell people I was an entrepreneur before I was an artist. I was a businessman before I was an artist. And I remember the first meeting that I had with Sunny House Gallery in Dallas. When I met up with them, and when they drove up, I was there. Like, we were supposed to be there a certain time, and I was there. And they drove, and they're like, wow, you're here. And I was like, yeah, like I was, you know, they was like, we've never dealt with an artist that was on time. And I was like, I was a businessman before I was an artist. And I remember being in a group exhibition, and the call time was 3 o'clock. And I got there, I was there like 2:50, 3 o'clock. And I remember the curator saying, wow, I've never seen an artist here on time. I think what I tell myself is like, I show up. Like I show up, like I say yes. And you know, like as artists, like you're deserving, I'm deserving. You're worthy, I'm worthy. You know, it's like you can't, I can't, let me say that. I can't be coy. I can't be, like Marcus, what do you want? And no one is gonna like get it for me or do it for me. I think growing up with the starving artist mentality, I thought like, you know, I need an agent. I need to be signed to a gallery. I need to be exclusive with a gallery. And what I've learned is like, I just take the risk. You know, my journey or my career has been unconventional. I guess, again, create your life. You know, I grew up thinking, you know, I have to go to get my MFA. I have to do these things like from what everyone told me, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to make it, or to, I guess, you know, go through like the gatekeepers and all of that kind of stuff, you know. This is the road that you go to be a successful artist. And I was like, well, I didn't go that road. So I went this road. And like, thank God, like I feel blessed that I'm getting opportunities, but I think those opportunities came by me saying yes and by me taking the risk. Like doing social media. Originally, like I hated social media. I was like, I don't want to post this and I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to do that. But with the social media, I realized that I had to be consistent. You know, I had to post my work. Yeah, at first I was afraid that, oh, someone's gonna take my idea, someone's gonna see it, and they're gonna recreate it. And that is possible. I have friends in New York who have painted paintings, and I went home to Texas to an exhibition, and I've seen people in Texas recreate a painting of a friend and selling it for $3,000, $5,000. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, bro, find your own voice, you know? Like now I get it that it's a form of flattery. I couldn't get that at first. I think because I had like a scarcity mindset. I mean, it's gonna happen. Like it's gonna happen. But no, to my knowledge, no, I take that back. Someone has recreated one of my paintings, and I wasn't as upset as I thought that I was gonna be. I was actually flattered, you know, when I found it out. Maybe it's because I sold that painting, you know, but I was flattered that someone learned. Because to be honest with you, that's kind of how I learned. I looked at somebody else's stuff. I might have not have sold it, but I did it to like learn a technique. But back to that, like I show up on time. when I post consistent. I don't like post one thing and then I'll wait like another week or another month to post. It's like you have to be consistent because the people that are watching you, they want to know that they want to be able to rely on you. They want to be able to depend on you. They want to be able to believe in you. They want to be able to support you. And you know, you get to or you have to like be consistent. Like post, like let people see your work. Like and there was another part where I thought like don't let people in on my process. I don't want people to know how I do things. But then what I also learned was like buyers like to be part of your journey. Like buyers are sometimes connected with the piece as you're beginning it. They won't tell it to you, but they're watching it. And by the time it is finished, it's like, you know, that piece has been speaking to me. And I remember when you created it, I remember when you posted it, I want that piece. You know, like all the things that I thought not to do, because I was so like, it has to be this way, you know, it ended up being another way. Like getting the residency was because I said yes, so I took the risk to apply. A lot of my shows, I was always the only artist that was there on time. So the curators and the galleries, they considered me like oh, he's serious about it. Like we want to work with him. And even being in a gallery, a lot of artists that I know are like, oh, I'm in a gallery down there. The gallery does everything. Like you got my work done, you do what you do, now sell my stuff. What I've learned for me is that it's a partnership. And it's like, you know, the gallery promotes me, I promote the gallery, and I promote me, you know. And in actuality, nobody can really sell you better than you sell yourself. You know, if you don't have stories or descriptions about your art, no one can create these stories because it's your stories, it's your paintings, you know. So it's like I had to learn how to talk about my art. I have to learn how to sell my art. I have to learn to like, when there's an exhibition, I show up on time. And I take the time to talk to people. Like if the gallery owners are talking to a potential buyer, I'm talking to the other potential buyers. You know, I have to find out what the call to action is. You know, I think ultimately it's just like believing in myself. You know, but again, it's like you want a partnership with the galleries too.
What do you mean by, you know, I'm just so excited by everything that you have said, yay. Because you talked about you've busted a lot of the myths that artists believe in, and there's certainly a lot of myths out there, and I'm really thrilled to hear an artist speak to those myths and bust the myths. And I was just going to ask you about another myth, and I lost my thought. Talk to me about how you get it done. It seems like you are in multiple places at the same time. So you have an exhibit down in Texas, you have your residency here, you have another residency, you know, lined up. You have other, you know, projects that you're involved in. Are you working with a team? How do you get it all done?
I do a lot of things on my own, but ultimately I think there is a team. There's a team, then again, there's partnerships, you know, and I think a wonderful partnership is when both parties can walk away from a negotiation table feeling like they've both won, like there's a win-win scenario.
Well, are there partnerships that you would encourage artists that are just starting out to develop?
Yeah, I feel like we all have this like inner dialogue or this inner feeling or gut feeling. And again, it's like if something doesn't feel right for you, it's not right. Trust that. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. When I say yes, I think that's where you mess up. Like, remember, I'm a businessman before I'm an artist. You have to create like a win-win scenario for you and whoever the partner is. So it could be whether it's a public relations person, whether it's a publication, whether it's someone that does your social media, whether it's a gallery, whether it's a buyer. There's this one particular piece. It was one of my most iconic pieces, and I remember telling myself that I did it like years ago, and I remember telling myself the piece is going to be this price, and it's non-negotiable. for me, it was also, it was a benchmark for me to say that I was good enough, and it was to say that I deserved it, and to say that the piece deserved it. And I remember once upon a time, someone saying, a gallery saying, how much are you how low are you willing to go on this piece? And I was like, non-negotiable. Like, it's that price. Like, I have other pieces that I've negotiated, but I was like, that particular piece, I was like, non-negotiable. Like, it's that price, and like, that's it. And years later, that piece actually sold for that price, and that's the thing that gave me the confidence in saying that I'm worth it. Like, my work is worth it, you know. But as far as partnerships goes, I do have things going on in different places, and I think it's a level of trust, and I think it's like managing relationships. How do you manage your relationships? When someone texts you, do you respond, or do you call, and do you check up on people? Do you say, hey, how are you doing? Are you that kind of person? It's just like that, you know. My gallery in Texas, I was with them for 2 months, and we developed like weekly calls, you know, so we could set goals and how we were going to promote and what we were going to do. And I felt comfortable, and they felt comfortable enough for me to come to New York and to be into my residency in Gowanus Island, and they didn't feel threatened, you know. Like, they saw how I spoke to my clients, and they saw what was important to me with my clients, with my buyers and my viewers. Like, I didn't want you to come in and like harp in on the people that you gotta buy. Like, they saw how I am with my people, and how I want people to be a part of the journey and don't feel forced to purchase, you know, because there's so many different ways of support. And then once I got to Gowanus Island, we developed a relationship with Art Crawl Harlem, to where it kind of became like a synergy, you know. And then with Arts Gowanus in Brooklyn, there's the Atlantic Avenue Artwalk. Like, even having that, it's like there's curators and there's the president of Johnny Thornton and even the Spine. Like, they're there, and I'm not there, but they're there, and I'm trusting that, you know, that they got it, you know, and they're trusting me. You know, it's like there's just this level of trust, and I think that's how you're able to be in so many different places, you know, because you develop like good relationships and partnerships.
There's so many artists who believe that the first thing that they need to do in their career is to find a gallery, and they, you know, once they get ready to show their work, they, you know, just start knocking on the door of every gallery that they can think of or see. What would you advise them to do? Is that an approach that you would recommend that they take, or what would you advise an artist who is just starting out, they have a body of work, whether it's 3 pieces or 4 pieces or 10 pieces, what's the guidance that you would give them based on your experience and what you have seen other artists be successful in doing?
I'm not assigned to a gallery yet, but I've even learned, even with that, there's different levels to being signed. Like, there can be like a starter packet for being signed, and you're just signed with a gallery, and they don't promote you. You don't promote them, like, and nothing just happens. It's almost like the record business. But then I've seen to where there's some galleries where you're like exclusively signed to that gallery, and you can't sell. All sales has to go through this gallery, whether they promote you or not. And I think ultimately it's like, it's the whole question of like, what do you want? And what kind of deal do you want? Like, do you want to just say like, hey, I'm signed with a gallery, I'm signed with an agency, or, you know, a dealer, whatever. Like, there's so many different ways to create art and to make money off of art. I don't know. Like, I'm not there yet. I have friends who are exclusively signed with galleries. I have some that are not. I mean, from my experience, what I see is I would like to be signed to a gallery with an option of selling with other galleries. You know, most artists, some artists, I think they don't even know that that's even possible. Like, you have to have just one gallery. And it's like, how long were you signed to that gallery? What, you know, like, I know artists who, like, there's some artists who are signed to galleries, but they can't even sell their own work. You know, I want to be able to sell my own work. I want to be able to have relationships with different galleries, or art advisors or curators, to where to show my stuff. Some galleries are like, you have to produce 100 pieces by the end of the year, and you have to become this machine. And it's like, for me, it's like you lose the magic of your talent because you become this machine. I mean, I haven't got to that side yet, but I have friends who are like in that now. Like, they're not happy, and I think if it gets to the point to me where I'm doing this and I'm not happy, then I'm like, why am I doing it?
So given that, what would be your advice to an emerging artist at any level? Because emerging is you can have had a full career in one area and decide that now you're going to express your artistic self. You can be somebody who's fresh out of school, whether it's an art school or not. So emerging is not an age thing, but what would you then encourage an emerging artist to do as a first step once they've decided that, hey, I'm going to be serious about this?
I think there's so many different things. I think about what kind of artist that you want to be. What kind of art do you want to create? What are the places that you want, where you want your art to be? Like, I remember Evita asked me if I ever wanted my artwork in museums, and it never crossed my mind. All I wanted to do was be in galleries. But then the fact of thinking of museums, I was like, oh wow, like I never thought like a museum artist, And I was like, oh no, I don't want to be in a museum. But in actuality, I did. I just didn't say it out loud. So it's like, what does it take to be a museum artist, So I had to go and research those kind of things. What does it take to be an artist with different residencies? You want to be a resident artist. Like, what are the things? So I will say, like, there's business to it. There is, does the artist have a CV, which is like your resume? And what are the things that are on it? If you don't have one, figure it out. Write your resume, because when you submit, that's what people are looking for. They want to know, what have you done and who have you done it with? Do you have an artist statement? I did not know how to do an artist statement, but I had to figure out how to do an artist statement. You have to have your artist statement. You have to have a bio and professional photos, like your profile photo. I had to take the time to get a good headshot. Because when they promote you, that's what they have. Like, you have to have all the tools lined up to hand out, like your kit, to give it to the gallery and to the art advisors so that they can properly promote you, your brand.
Your promotional tools.
Your promotional tools. Mm-hmm. You develop those things, and I think a lot of artists, in creating that, it's like, who is it that you want to be? Like, how is it that you want the world to see you? How is it that you want them to experience you? And do you want someone else telling your story? Do you want someone else branding and marketing you? I wanted to be able to tell my own story of who I am and how I do my things.
What you've been in a number of art fairs, mm-hmm. And so what have you taken away? What have you taken away from your art fairs and your residencies? Are these paths that you would recommend that other artists take? Are there certain considerations that they need to have?
I think, again, it depends on what kind of artist you want to be. Mm-hmm. Because I have friends who are like amazing artists, but they don't want to go the gallery route. Mm-hmm. Like, I've done like the Pancakes and Booze, and I've done the other art fair. I've done like the open studios. Each one has like a different viewer or customer based target audience, I guess, should I say? And I've learned something from each one of them. So with the fairs, what it taught me how to speak about my work. Mm-hmm. I used to be nervous, like standing in front of my work, and I'm like, oh, is anybody gonna come to my booth? And people would come, and I would have to talk about it. And the more I got to talk about it, the more I was able to, talk about my art and to talk about my technique and my process. So it kind of gave me confidence. When I do the art fairs. Like the art fairs also, they have like websites like a database of like who the participating artists are. So one of the things that I learned, I used to believe that I'm gonna let my work speak for itself. And so when they're looking for artists, it's like my work is there and they're selecting me based off my work. But some of the advice that I got was a lot of times people, they just want to come and see you just because of the way that you look, because buyers identify by the way that you look. Like your head, that's why it's important to have a nice headshot. I remember doing an open studio and I remember like just a swarm of like black people came into my studio who didn't know me, and they came simply because I was black. And they went on the database and were like, we were looking for a black artist. And the fact that they saw that I was a black artist, like they wanted to see my work, that intrigued them. And that's happened on a couple of occasions, so I learned that. The residencies gives me the freedom to create whatever I want to create and how I want to create it and to do what I want. It gives me the opportunity to go through my process. You know, it gets me away from home and away from like my bills and away from like my hustle and bustle, and I'm in a location to where I can relax, or I can just be here and I can use like the walls as, you know, part of my inspiration. Or I can use like outside, you know, looking at the water, you know, looking at the trees, looking at nature. It also, what a lot of people don't know about like residencies, it also creates this connection. So like being in Spain, by me making the choice to go to Spain and to create art there, to have an exhibition, it opened up and it allowed and it gave permission to other people to come over to Spain. There were some people who never taken an international trip before. There were some people that never went to an art exhibition. There were some people that never been to Spain. There were some people that never traveled out of the country by themselves. They were always with like their significant other or their children. And by me doing that, it allowed them to manifest some of their visions and some of their dreams. Me being on Gowanus Island, I've been in New York for over 13 years and I'd never really been to Gowanus Island. This is like one of New York's best kept secrets. And by me being here, it's allowing other people who've never been to Gowanus Island ever to come and experience this beautiful, natural place. I am now painting in this colonial home, which I'm pretty sure, like back in the day, like, you know, black people lived in this house, you know, but I'm very grateful that I get to walk up in here and open the door every morning, ride this 7-minute ferry over here, and I'm in this place, you know, and there's so many different pockets on this island that people get to experience just because I'm here.
There is so much more that I could ask you. We're coming to the end of our time. This has been wonderful. Speaking of secrets, I'm wondering if there is a best kept secret about the art business, about being an artist, about being an artist in business, about marketing one's work that you're willing to share.
I don't think it's a secret, but the one thing that I always tell people is that you are uniquely designed by God, and there's nobody in the world that can do what you can do. There's no one that can paint the way that you paint. There's no one that can speak the way that you can speak, and it is your responsibility to use those gifts to paint it. And I dare you to use your gifts. I dare you to show up. I dare you to use your gifts to empower the world. I dare you to create your CV and your promotional package. I dare you to show up on time. I dare you to have your first solo exhibition. I dare you to participate in your first group show. And I dare you to say yes to opportunities that come your way.
Excellent, Demarcus. My last question is, what is next for you?
Next for me is France. In 2021, I am an artist in residence in Chateau Orquevaux. This was on my bucket list. This was something that I didn't even think that I could get. It is this beautiful chateau in the south of France that sits on just acres of land. and I got accepted to be into this program, and I got won a grant to be into this program as well too. And I can't wait to get there to find out new things about my process, like what limiting beliefs I have around my art and how I can break through those beliefs and push forward as a mid-level artist and not an emerging artist.
Thank you so much, Demarcus.
Thank you for having me.
For those who are just joining us, the voice that you're hearing is founder Alexis Heath, co-founder and director of Heath Gallery, and founder of Show Your Art and Sell Your Art. And I'm here with Demarcus Mcgaughey, an artist who's currently in residence at Governor's Island as part of the Harlem Art Crawl residency. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. We look forward to seeing more of you, and certainly Demarcus Mcgaughey is an artist to watch. Thanks so much.